Hey, thanks for making it to Veterans Info Tap. I'm glad you made it. Here is the headline. Tester, that's the chairman of the Senate Veterans Affairs Committee, joins the American Legion to talk priorities as chairman. So, look, at the end of the day, the service organizations such as American Legion, VFW, DAV, Paralyzed Veterans, Order of the Purple Heart, Marine Corps League, MOA, TREA, the list goes on, right? So all of these organizations, for the most part, have a seat at the table in DC. So when we pay our dues to these different organizations, it pays for the full-time representation at the Capitol, right? So they're in there, hopefully, pounding their fist and trying to make sure that veterans continue to be taken care of. At least that's what I believe. And I know that there's probably maybe difference in opinion, but something is definitely better than nothing. And some of these places do a pretty good job at sharing the word. So, and holding these electeds accountable to some level. Now, I don't want to say that takes away the burden from us, because we, as the constituency, the people in each district for Congress throughout our nation, need to chime in to our congressional office, whether it's an email. You don't want to talk to somebody, fine. Call in the evening and leave a voicemail when they don't answer. But we need to rattle the cage a little bit from the constituency perspective. That way we have voices on the Hill, we have voices in the boots on the ground in the districts, right? So we, the constituency, are the voting body, the people who are going to vote in or out these elected officials. And I will tell you that veterans are a shrinking population, which is a little bit concerning, because the more of us, the better, right? When it comes to getting things done legislatively. A bigger body, right? Now, I will tell you that here is the hidden number. The hidden number is spouses and dependents being included into the overall, I call it veteran sphere, okay? So when you talk to an elected official, I always like to include, oh, and by the way, the number's really X number of veterans times whatever, 2.5% or 2.5 times that, because we got to account for spouses and dependents, right? I guarantee you, my spouse cares as much about veterans' benefits and legislation as I do. So we collectively are now two, right? My child, who's voting age, cares too. So this is something that needs to be expressed. And I know that I was on my soapbox there, but I do want to jump into this. Please hit the thumbs up. Subscribe, share with a friend, all that good stuff. I really appreciate it. The two asked, right, are really hit the thumbs up and let the video run. That's what pushes this information out. And I want to see if we could pick out any nuggets throughout this this news release from the Senate Veterans Affairs Committee, and go from there. So bear with me, and we'll get through this. All right. So Tester joins the American Legion to talk priorities as chairman. Chairman addressed hundreds of Legion members from Montana and across the country at annual National Legislative Conference. There's a pretty decent picture, shows a lot of people and a lot of hats. So and when I say hats, I'm talking about all the service organizations wearing their hats, right? So let's move on. U.S. Senator Jon Tester, chairman of the Senate Veterans Affairs Committee, spoke yesterday to hundreds of members of the American Legion from Montana and across the country gathered for their 2024 National Legislative Conference. Growing up in Big Sandy, Montana, I learned from a young age that America's veterans are the fabric that make our nation the greatest country in the world, Tester said. As chairman and before as ranking member, I've been lucky to partner with the Legion to work towards honoring the promises we made to these men and women in every corner of this country, from strengthening mental health care for rural veterans with the Hannon Act to finally delivering generations of toxic exposed veterans and their families the health care and benefits they've earned with the PACT Act, Chairman Tester underscored the Legion's support for the PACT Act and how thousands of Legion and VSO members were critical in putting pressure on Congress to get the law across the finish line. The pressure, in my opinion, comes from the constituency, the voting body for the elected officials. The more people that you have chiming in saying, hey, look, you need to pass this, right? This is important and you need to get this thing passed, the better off we're going to be. Anyway, moving on. Tester continued, I can't tell you the number of veterans that I've talked to who say the PACT Act changed my life. These folks are exactly why we fought like hell to pass the PACT Act. And it's why we're holding VA accountable to implement this law the way Congress intended and the way veterans deserve. Tester also highlighted his ongoing legislative priorities as chairman this Congress, including passing the bipartisan Major Richard Starr Act. I'm going to read it again because there's always a lot of questions. Tester also highlighted his ongoing legislative priorities as chairman this Congress, including passing the bipartisan Major Richard Starr Act to deliver medically retired combat veterans their full military benefits, and the bipartisan Guard VA Benefits Act to hold scammers ripping off veterans filing for VA benefits accountable. Two great subjects. And look, with the Guard Act, I'm not saying there shouldn't be a company out there to help veterans. There's obviously a need because the free services are overwhelmed and barely functioning with their heads above water, so they are not able to be proactive very well in a lot of cases. So there should be another resource for veterans, and if veterans want to pay for it, that's fine. It just should not be exorbitant. I mean, that's really my kind of say on that. All right, so and I'm all about the Major Richard Starr Act. That's a thing that needs to be corrected like yesterday. So moving on. Emphasizing the importance of improving veterans' access to mental health care, especially those living in rural and remote areas, Tester continued. We've also got to keep pushing to connect veterans with the mental health care and services they need, no matter where they live. Mental health is one of the biggest challenges facing our country and our veterans. With you as partners, we'll keep working to enact innovative solutions that improve veterans' access to life-saving mental health care. Last little paragraph here. A staunch advocate for improving veterans' access to life-saving mental health care, Tester championed the Hannon Act, named after a Montana veteran who lost his life to suicide in his capacity as the top Democrat at the time on the Senate Veterans Affairs Committee to bolster VA's mental health. It's just this is a little blurb about just the pats on the back of the things that he can kind of tie his name to, which is fine. And the reason why I'm reading it is because if you're not aware of these different acts and pieces of legislation that went into effect, now you know, right? So you check them out. In his capacity, blah, blah, Senate Veterans Affairs, bolster VA's mental health workforce and increase rural veterans' access to care through alternative and local treatment options. Continuing his effort to improve veterans' access to mental health and suicide prevention services, the senator is spearheading the bipartisan Not Just a Number Act to require VA to take more comprehensive look at factors that best prevent veteran suicide, and the Making Community Care Work for Veterans Act to improve veterans' access to life-saving residential treatment programs for mental health and substance use disorder. All right, thank you for watching. I appreciate it. Have a great one. And remember, if we don't take care of each other, something went wrong.